Hey everyone, welcome to our event. My name is Nikita. I am your today host, and we have an interesting topic today. We'll discuss the differences between mobile apps and mobile games in terms of monetization and user acquisition. So yeah, there's a lot of talk. There is a lot to talk about, and today I'm joined with our lovely guests. I will show them to you now. Say hi, guys.
Hi.
These are experts from AdQuantum and Union Apps. All of these experts worked a lot with mobile apps and mobile games. So yeah, there's some expertise here. I personally work only with apps, so we'll ask some dumb questions about the games. I hope you don't mind. Let's start with introducing yourselves. Maybe with you, Artyom.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for invitation. Hi, guys. Yeah, my name is Artyom, and I'm a head of marketing at Union Apps. We provide service in promoting apps and increase a lot of product metrics. Yeah, we do non-game publishing. It's like game publishing, but with apps with subscription-based model subscriptions. And yeah, so I'm glad to be here, and I would like to answer of all of your questions here.
Yeah, you can pass the word maybe to Bogdan.
Okay, yeah. Hi, I'm Bogdan. I'm working in at Quantum as a UA manager. I prioritize on mobile games, and I focus on paid social media. And I believe that I have a significant experience in the fields, and I would like to share it with all of our listeners. Yep. Anton?
That's me. Hello, everyone. My name is Anton. I'm user acquisition group head in AdQuantum mobile agency. So I provide the same services as Bogdan. We work with a lot of app categories, not only app. Sometimes we got web products, and I'm really glad to ask all of your questions about user acquisition, about the creative strategy, about scale, about how to analyze traffic. So that's all.
Yeah, and hi, I'm Lilia. I also work in AdQuantum as a user acquisition manager, mainly specializing in ad networks, mainly working with games. Glad to be here and glad to answer all your questions.
Amazing. Thanks everyone for joining us. I'd like to tell everyone who's watching right now in our stream, don't mind writing your question in chat. I will read them to our guests and they'll answer. So don't be shy. Today we have two big themes, monetization and user acquisition, two big fields, whereas most of the differences between the games and the apps. And we'll start with monetization. So as a core, like how do we earn money from our application, either at a game or a mobile app. So the first thing that comes to mind is everyone who had some experience with playing mobile games and using the apps, that most of the apps now monetized via subscriptions, while games are usually monetized with some consumable purchases like gems or like some spending currency. So there is the biggest difference here, and I see that some games, at least lately, are using more and more subscriptions. But it's still not the most dominant way to monetize the game. So the first question here is why is it different? Why is games using consumable purchases and why apps using subscriptions?
Okay, maybe shall I start? Yeah. So for subscription, it's a very interesting question, and I done some research here, and I think mobile apps they use the subscription model and they use subscriptions because I think we need to find to see 2 points of view in it. The first one is like big companies who already use the subscription model, like Netflix or Microsoft. They do it. I think they've done some researches with customers and do cost depth here, and they just research how it will be useful for users and how it work better for users. In this case, I think they use like this subscription model as like is based for their services and apps and CAS services. In this case, I think subscriptions is like in mobile apps we use subscriptions because like big companies do, and for users it will be like usual and typical for that for paid for content or for services. And I think the second point is because maybe historical thing, because when internet is like increase in zeros, yeah, we get like only paid apps and services, which is like we just need to buy like lifetime purchase here, and after that all apps goes to freemium model. And in this case, for games, I think it is well easy because they are freemium and they have some in-app purchases. But for apps, it's like transformed to subscription model. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually interesting because I think at least at the beginning of the App Store, all games and apps were mostly paid, just pay upfront to download.
Yeah.
And now they both switched to free to download, but then invented some kind of monetization inside. And it's interesting how they diverged in path. So apps is now mostly monetized via subscriptions and games via one-time purchase. Why do you think these differences in people's behavior? Do you think it may be some kind of psychological thing to spend some virtual currency inside your game, so you spend more money or something?
Well, you see, I think from my perspective, we should focus on the key difference between apps and games. In apps, they are supposed to fulfill and meet a certain necessity that is already inside people. They already have this necessity. Whether you want to get, a better body, or maybe you want an app that can edit or your videos or images, you already kind of want that, even if you're not aware of it. So a perfect ad is the ad that awakes your necessity. And in terms of games, it's actually quite the opposite. We kind of create necessity, I think.
Yeah, we kind of create the necessity because the vast majority of games are free to download and free to play, and technically a user might have an opportunity to play a game without paying anything there. So we need to create this necessity for a user by providing them with extra value by the means of, better equipment or more in-app purchases that could boost the performance of the user in the game or help them to achieve better results.
Yep.
And why do you think subscriptions in games are still not so popular? I see they are getting some popular recently.
When creating the necessity, we are trying to immediately fulfill it, and so it's just better. It's properly monetized when this necessity is created on a daily, or I should even say on an hourly basis. So we would like to repeat this process as many times as we want, to create necessity and then to immediately fulfill it using different means and different channels and different keys for that.
I think subscription model in games could be only as additional instrument, like an extra option which allows you to get some bonus, for example, to get some multiplier for something, but it wouldn't be the only way to monetize an app, just because it's gathering lower revenue, lower LTV than in-app purchase, and even lower than in-app advertising. So it's really narrow. Your product wouldn't fit into so-called product channel fit for paid advertising if you run your monetization only with subscription model. And it's not really proper thing. Just as an additional instrument, I think it would work really great, but not as solo instrument.
So subscriptions in games are more like a tool for core players, like more invested players who are already kind of hooked on this game, right? And new players that get acquired via user acquisition, they mostly prompted to buy some small purchases, like for $1 or something, to start monetizing and hook them to spend more money later, right?
Yeah, you should be careful while implementing the subscription inside your game. It should be well combined with still the necessity of constantly buying consumables. So it's kind of, as Anton said, in addition to that, which probably can even boost like the regular amount of necessity, the regular amount of consumables that you buy.
Yes, and it could be the first step. First subscription could be the first step to paying user with high revenue retention. Because first of all, you buy purchase, you get some bonus, you get some features from game, and after that you want to get more. And after you get the subscription, you probably would buy some gems, some coin packs, and your LTV as user will be higher for a publisher.
It's also interesting how there are a lot of ways to monetize the game, like what you can buy via this currency, like some cosmetics and levels and I don't know, a lot of stuff. And usually subscription in mobile apps is just access to the app and that's it. So there is no, I see really rarely some differences inside the app, like different tariffs, different prices. It's usually just plain subscription to have the access and that's it. What do you think about that? Maybe it will change, or you think it's the right way to do it? Looks like everyone agree then. So the next part, I think we can think about it the other way around. So why are there no consumables inside the apps? Because the same logic can be applied here. Like you download the app, you don't know yet that you are ready to subscribe, and you may introduce not a free trial, but some one-time purchase to have an access or something. Why this is not a thing?
Yeah, I think okay, it's about like my first hypothesis here. I think it's because people usually pay for content or for service, like for subscription model. Yeah, they could do like lifetime purchase or in-app purchase. Yeah, but usually it's more simple to get like renewable subscriptions here, and I think it's like we can get more revenue from the apps when we use like subscription model. In this case, I think like an option with trial or without trial, but with different with small subscriptions by month or by week. Yeah, it's a great opportunity for users to open the app and to be close with content or with service, and decide for users should he or she use this app or not. In this case, I think one more point here is it's about retention for kind of category in the apps, because for games it's very important to have a high retention rate for every day. But for apps, for content apps, for fitness apps, for example, they don't have like everyday retention, because you can't do workouts every day. You do like weekly retention rate. In this case, I think you just use your subscription based revenue, from subscription, of course. In this case, I think weekly or monthly or other subscriptions is good for apps. Yeah, because of retention is not good for every day, but good for weekly or monthly retention. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because subscription at its nature is like a more long-term relationship between the consumer and the app. Like when you're subscribing, you're kind of expecting the updates and continuous support of this service, while the one-time purchase is not like that. You just pay and spend and that's it. So maybe there will be some kind of the apps who provide some one-time value, like delete duplicates from photo mediatek or something, and but they still use subscriptions, I see, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. They're kind of expecting consumers to forget about it, or it's weird for me.
Yeah, I think it's like because they want to grab a lot of revenue from user, and in this case they can use two options to sell. I think to sell account of using app, 5-time delete duplicate or something like that, or they can use like lifetime one purchase. And lifetime it's I think it's get more revenue than time some kind of account deleted. But I remember that in apps there are some categories who use consumables in their app. The first category I think is like utilities. They also use ads, ad rewarding, and they're great in revenue by Sensor Tower. And the second one category I think is interactive stories. They use like not subscription, but they use games or currency inside to pay for another episode, and it is also successful in the apps. So some categories I use consumables, because it's like normal for paid like in this way. But in mostly a lot of categories don't use this one. But interactive stories, I remember that they use games and other money for open like episodes or
but they're pretty close to being the games, right? So it's kind of interactive stories. It's kind of like a text-based game, right?
And in the middle of games and apps, like
games. In between. I heard this case about interactive book, and they really struggled. They should put the app inside the books category or inside the games category, because in the games category they receive much more organic installs than in books category. I don't recall downloaded any apps from the books category myself, at least. So that's interesting. And you mentioned the ads, and I think we can proceed to this part of monetization. Ads also, I think, plays a big role in monetization of the games and the mobile apps. What do you think the difference here, and what are the key things that you need to think about while thinking about placing the ads inside your app?
The main thing that UA manager and basically anybody who is dealing with the product itself should be aware of is the ratio between in-app ads and in-app purchases of your game. I think we can divide all games into 3 large categories. On the one side, we will have the hyper casual games, which have a lot of ads and a lot of different types of ads, like interstitials, rewarded videos, and they tend to this kind of monetization. They barely use any purchases. And on the other side, we'll have these mid-core and hardcore games, which on the contrary, they do not use a lot of in-app monetization. From my experience, it's usually about somewhere from 5 to 10%. So it's a small addition to the in-app purchases monetization. And in between them, we have the casual games, and they have all different ratios. They have all the varieties of ratios of in-apps and in-ads that you can imagine. It's basically always up to the product team that set the monetization balance inside, and that's why it's so it's a great pleasure to work with them, because you can interact with them. Your traffic can interact with them in various ways.
Yeah, so basically when we are talking about hyper casual games, because of the short life cycle of the user, you need to monetize them as soon as possible. So in-app ads are most suitable for these types of games, because, for example, you can quickly show a user a banner or an interstitial ad or something like that. And in case of mid-core and hardcore games, we're talking about longer life cycle, more paying whales, so-called. So we have more options to bring this additional value to the user to motivate them to make in-app purchases. And the casual games are somewhere in between.
Yep.
Yeah, that's interesting. You noticed hyper casual games don't have any, rarely have any in-app purchases, and the first thing that comes to mind is disable all ads, one-time purchase. I think everyone's doing it. So yeah.
Sometimes it's like subscription. There's two ways to implement this feature in the game.
There's also cases when this kind of this opportunity it actually can drop the revenue from your app, because it's better for your users never to be able to turn off all the ads rather than providing them with such opportunities. So I think it's a tough task to create this to create a purchase of such amount which will fit right into this gap, so to say.
Yeah, that makes sense, because people who buy in this purchase, they invested in some kind of this game, right? They play in it more. Maybe by spending money on it, they're a bit more invested and will play more. So if you show them the ads, probably will earn more money. Yeah, that's interesting. Never thought about it. And in terms of ads networks and ways the ads integrated, are there any differences between the apps and games? The same networks or not?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anton, you should tell. Yeah. It's okay.
Yes. Sometimes there is a difference. Basically, as for ads, as for game categories, there is the same amount of the same list of paid social platforms which you should use. So it's Google Ads, Snapchat ads, TikTok ads, Twitter, etc. You could use it for promotion games. You could use it for promotion apps. It's the same list, but if you talk about games, there is a huge amount of market of in-app networks, just because it's game addicted audience into them, and it's huge volume, and you could spend much more money on games using in-app networks, just because you couldn't provide such quality of traffic via in-app networks promoting app, just because it's really expensive to optimize. It's really hard to gather enough data to optimize, and there is a portrait of audience, the different, not the same as the game audience. It's sometimes not suitable. It's possible, sometimes depends on the product, of course. But basically, in-app networks are pretty cool for games. And of course, there is different costs. I should answer this question, or we could stop now.
Well, that's interesting. So to put it simply, most of the users come to apps from like social networks or something, and most of the users come to games from other games, right? From
Yeah, so the user is already engaged with the game and wants to entertain themselves. So it's the higher opportunity that the user will install another game that is shown within the game.
Yeah, but still the amount of users that we drag from paid social is still huge. There is still a lot of traffic there and the different segments of traffic, which you should always be aware of, and you should always at least try to track to app and see how it goes. See the LTV and CPI ratio on this specific channel.
Basically, inventory is the same because all the major game publishers use expensive network of mediation systems, and basically inventory is the same. Google Ads, Unity, RSource, they're like mixing, so you could just choose for you proper instrument in which you will fit into the auction with your LTV. That's all.
Yeah, I'd like to add that there are a lot of not social networks, but like IronSource or Unity that didn't work well to the app. I mean, it's good for app, but it's not like a big. We can't spend a lot of money on these video networks because it's, I don't know, because maybe algorithm or machine learning in these video networks doesn't work good for apps. But Uploading, for example, they said that they just changed the machine learning for the apps, for promoting apps. Yeah, but yeah, I think if you have a game, you have a lot of options and you have a lot of media sources to promote. In the apps, you have much less media sources to promote because social paid, it's like 90 or 95% of your media split. In this case, you should like concentrate on these media sources. But if you have game, you just have a lot of other media sources and video networks, which just can give us a great results with a lot of revenue and spend on it.
I guess it is not only about the algorithm, because AdNet just simply have more gaming traffic for gaming users, and the user segmentation, the audience segmentation works different within those networks. So they may not be that suitable for non-gaming apps.
Yeah, because apps doesn't use ads for revenue stream, right? They have only subscription model. Yeah, in this case, they don't have like ad placements in the apps. In this case, we can't just acquire new people from this network. Yeah, makes sense.
Interesting. And you said there's a difference between LTV from just casual user from the games and from apps. So how, like an order of magnitude, like how much is the difference in LTV, like in some app or as opposed to some hyper casual game?
I think I should say that the variety of these CPIs and LTVs in games is just from the insignificant 1 cent CPI and 2 cent LTV ratio, which is as you can count is very profitable, up to $40-60 per app install, which is still profitable. So it always depends on the product, and it always depends on the country, of course. And yes, the buying price of 1 cent is, for example, for India, is very much real, and it's still very profitable. And still you get, and on the opposite hand, you work with another product, for example, mid-core, hardcore, and you buy the installs for $30-40, and you're still okay with that because you know your channel and you know that this can still pay off.
Yeah, and networks works pretty much the same way.
So basically, you can have, for example, racing category in game. So you could have just average CPM from $10 to $15, for example. But for like some match free game on the same year. It's numbers about US. It's US. You could have 40, 60, $70 per CPM, and it's okay. And this game and this game, but it's much more expensive.
To finishing with the monetization, there's also a question in the chat. How does the first ad after passing or failing a level impact revenue and user retention? I think it means like full screen ad.
You mean the interstitial ads, right?
Yeah.
Well, the interstitials, they mostly use for hyper casual games with low lifetime, because they are, as we all know, quite annoying. And by using them, you are not focused on retention of users. You're just focusing on quick monetization of these users. And it's a key feature of apps that are prioritized on in-app app monetization. And they think that the one thing that we should always remember about is the eCPM decay, as we call it. The first ad that is shown to you inside the game is always the most expensive one, and so you gain the most profit from the first ad, and then it goes like diminishing as a diminishing return. And that's why apps that focus on in-app ads monetization, they do not so much focus on retention, because it doesn't pay off. The longer retention for this app doesn't pay off, because after a 100th ad that is being shown to you, the amount of profit, the amount of revenue that you get from it is somewhere very low. So that's why, this kind of apps, the impact on the app is of course a negative impact, but you need to be where they should be or very properly made. So I've seen an app where interstitials were so good that I kind of like watching them. I never minded like watching this interstitial because they were perfectly made. But in most cases, you should be always aware that this will drop your retention rate, and you should look at the numbers.
It would ruin your user experience. So you must implement, if you want to test it, you must implement it really accurate on a very small amount of traffic, not on traffic. You must test it on the narrow audience of your app to evaluate how it will impact to your traffic.
Yeah, that's interesting. So that's why the payout in game for watching interstitial ad is so high. It's like double the amount of points or something, or lives or whatever, because you kind of want your user to see that ad as soon as possible and get the most return of it because of the low. Yes.
Yeah. I think I'm not an expert in mediation, but as far as I remember, the price for showing an interstitial in the waterfall is usually less than reward video. That's the one thing always to remember.
Yes,
as far as I remember. Yeah. So it's a complicated instrument that you should be using carefully in your app.
Basically, mixing rewarded video plus in-app purchase is an optimal way to test your ratio between type of monetization and maybe offer walls, but trying to use interstitial is very dangerous.
Yeah, once again, it's better to motivate people to push the button rather than just showing it to them. So it's the first option is more complicated and more like mind-changing.
Or these videos might be really, really catchy.
Yeah.
For users. So they would like install another app and forget about the other they were using.
True.
Yeah, and you mentioned this, catchy videos, and if this interstitial is so, quality that you don't mind watching it, but do you as a developer have any control over it? So you control what kind of ads showing in this interstitial, or it's controlled by ad network? So do you have any leverage here?
I think it's up to the mediation team. They decide which apps can be promoted inside their app. And yes, they set up the waterfall, and the key is to gain profit. The key goal is to, of course, gain profit. But I think they also consider different factors, like whether they want whether some apps that are shown that are supposed to be like 18 plus, and they don't want this ad to be shown in their app, or maybe they are blocking competitors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Create blacklists of publishers which is not allowed to show their ads in your app.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense. And what do you think about the future of monetization? What is, maybe some trends that you see lately in games and in apps?
Yeah, in the apps, I think it's we just can't like create a new subscription model, right? But I think yesterday I just wrote some interesting research from SubTA. It's like Subscription Trade Association, a very big community with subscription-based model in the United States, and they done the research about marketers, and I wrote that above near 60% of millennials don't know how much money they spend on subscription, and you just can't think about yourself. Do you know how much money do you spend or in your subscriptions? Yeah, in the apps or something like that. In this case, I think Apple and Google and other stores will be control this amount of spend. 3 or 4 years ago, we can just create the app, the fraud app, and do like a 7 or 3 day trial with annual subscription with $100, and the user can just install the app, and after that they usually delete the app, but subscription is still continuous, and after that they just pay the annual subscription and it is like it was possible, but now we just have like a notification from the Apple that you still have your subscription. Maybe you just want to cancel the trial or your subscription. And I think the future in the apps, it will be in this way. Apple will control these subscriptions, and I think we should. They will work with the system window when we just want to purchase their subscriptions, and maybe they will do some tests with size, with text, or something like that. So if you have like a fraud apps, I think you just will die, because Apple just do a lot of things that people clearly understand what price they will pay. Yeah, and if you have a good apps with good retention, I think you will be in the good. But in this case, I think trial cancel will be increased because Apple want to be like transparently with its users. Yeah.
So the trend here is, Apple is kind of forcing that only quality apps will left in the App Store, and most of the trash apps will die out, either because of the ATT or because of the people being more educated and they know to cancel trials immediately. So I think I also noticed this trend, and I also think that this is the case for the apps, and I hope there will be more quality products in the App Store. But for the games, do you think after Genshin Impact or Diablo Immortal, some big publishers and big games going to market, will there be a difference, like more expectation of the quality of the games even if it's still free game with in-app purchases, but it's kind of looks almost like a console game now. So what do you think about that?
When I first watched the videos about Diablo Immortal, I suddenly faced my own profession. So I like Diablo a lot, like Diablo 2, I'm a big fan. And then I saw like Diablo Immortal with the ultimate free-to-play game, so the face of it, on this very wide no brand. I don't know. Maybe people, maybe this will be the case when people will be like more aware of all the tricks that we use to monetize them. Obviously, we use some hooks, we use some strategies to monetize them. Hopefully, we won't. Well, yeah, obviously. As for the future of monetization, and like a working process for us, I don't know. I
think the main challenge in monetization in current time is how will pricing changes because of lack of data. The first call was non-IDFA year. The second call is the same for Google, and lack of data won't allow the networks divide the audience into clusters by their quality, and it's a big problem. But it will force ad networks to drop prices because as I read in some report, the first months after implementing iOS 14 with the opportunity to turn off IDFA, eCPM by country dropped. And now it goes back, but it's still cheaper than before 2021. And it's really interesting how pricing changes. It's about ad purchasing, it's about ad selling, because when ad network have no opportunity to divide audience into different quality groups, install campaign, event optimization campaign, value campaign, so it's different auctions, it's different CPM, it's different everything. And when ad networks have limited data, how would they sell their traffic? So it's would be cheaper to purchase audience. It also be cheaper to sell ads in your apps. I think we are going to this era when soon there won't be different optimization types. It will be one big Twitter. All install audience, all normal, not bad, not good, not cheap, not expensive. Just one okay audience for your app, for your game.
Yeah.
It's not a prediction. It's just my thoughts because it's really interesting.
And that this trend makes it harder to go to the market, being solo developer or indie developer, or like, anyways, for small businesses, is it harder now?
I think it's a trend to less competitive auction among app and game categories. In my opinion, it's not harder, but because of lack of data, it's a way to fully optimize ad platforms as Google USC. So probably the one thing you could manage is your creative strategy and your product. Make good product, make good creative, and everything will be good.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, sounds great, but we mentioned Diablo, and just like recently, we've seen this big, backlash, like people's, reviews on Metacritic and so on. But I think it's also a part of audience being more, educated about the tricks the games use, and maybe there will be a return of big paid games like AAA games on the platform. What do you think?
That's interesting.
Yeah, probably, but I think like it's mostly about the expectations. I don't believe that Diablo fans were expecting this kind of so harshly monetized game, and that's why the scores are so low. As for a general free-to-play game, no one even thinks about scoring them on Metacritics. They just exist, and people love them, and people are having fun playing them, and people are having fun like spending time and money and watching ads there because they're just having fun. Probably the case of Diablo Immortal is going to be a niche, but yeah, I think time will show. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. And yeah, it makes sense because we don't see a lot of discussions about some other big mobile games. They mostly just live in the App Store and earn a lot of money. That's it. So yeah, that's interesting. We can talk a bit more about user acquisition. We already touched this topic briefly. We discussed the differences in sources like channels, social, and so on. Maybe we can dive a bit deeper here. What do you think about social? Like, what are the most hot socials now, and what is growing, what is not, and are there any differences? Like, where should I distribute my game, for example, or app?
I think the market is pretty much the same, though there are some new players like TikTok.
TikTok and Apple searches for iOS just because of IDFA.
Yeah,
it's growing.
Twitter is kind of showing its head, but and we have a very positive experience with this source.
There's very high quality audience with higher LTV than the other social platforms.
Yeah, like
it's not there's no high volume, so we couldn't spend $3 million like on in-app networks, but it's really it has really good LTV.
Yeah.
So it's kind of less scalable than Facebook, for example, right?
Yes, much more.
Yeah.
And for the games, the same, still same social networks. Maybe some of the networks more preferable for the games than for the apps, for example, or it doesn't make any difference.
I think in some cases, I think for maybe Artem will correct me, but I think for games, as we've seen it, like Snapchat and probably Twitter, they work a little better than on games. And for games, TikTok is well performing now, but it's just kind of my perspective. Maybe my colleagues will also correct me.
About apps?
Yeah, I mean, about apps, I think that Twitter and Snapchat, they have like bigger opportunities for app monetization than game monetization. Well, Twitter probably is the same. Snapchat, I don't have like a lot of successful cases, and probably you guys have.
I would agree, but I think Google is still one of the leaders on the market.
Yeah. No, yeah, Google, yeah, it's still very high.
And does Apple Search Ads make any sense for? Sorry, does Apple Search Ads make any sense for promoting the game? Like, it's not some keyword you search for usually. I think, like, from my point of view, I not usually write something in the search to find the next game. I usually just.
Apple Search Ads is a good way, first of all, to protect your own branded keys. And you could, yes, you could buy your own organic, but you're protecting from competitors if you got high volume, if you are playing on a couple of $1 million per month, and you are in the top of App Store, so you must do it, of course. But not for only these goals. Not on a really high budget, you could find some insights via keywords. But in my opinion, it's really hard to scale. If you work not on your brand keys just to protect it, if you work on some not broad, some exact categories which you would like to test how it will perform, it's really hard to scale, to find proper bid, to find proper budget. Yes, and but one of the cool features, you could test their new ASO. So you could promote your ads without your standard ISO, you could test it. You could test different screens, and you could have some insights to, for example, to change your current setup in the App Store, for example.
Mm-hmm. And as for events and optimizations for the ads, is it the same? Like, what is mostly used now? Optimizations for purchases, for events, or optimizations for installs? How does it work?
In Apple Search Ads?
No, I mean
No,
just
it's me.
social.
Yeah. For apps, it's okay because we just working with iOS app only, because for subscription Android it's perform not good because I don't know, a lot of audience that didn't pay it at all. Yeah, we have a lot of a low conversion rate from trial to trial converted, and we have a very little retention rate. So we're working only with iOS. And now we have like SCAD network, our big challenge here in the user acquisition. So here we just can use only events which came from us in only 24 hours, the first 24 hours after the first launch the app. In this case, we usually use events from Playable, like trial started or subscription started, whereas there went or lifetime purchase. Yeah. So in this case, we just use only these events for optimization because of SCAD, and that's all. We just see only traffic and conversion to this event divided by media sources. Of course, we have like IDFA users, which is attributed by their own media sources, like social media or other. And we have some challenges with Google Ads because they don't use SCAD network postbacks at all. They use their own modeling conversions, and they have their own data, because in the apps, I think it's very big different with the game. We have a lot of search traffic in Google Ads for iOS, and search traffic attributed to the organic. And in this case, we just do some manipulation to divide it the true organic, our baseline, and the Google Ads traffic. Yeah, in this case, we usually use optimization for these paywall events. Yeah, but that is all that we have here for SCAD network.
Yeah, and as for the games, talking about networks.
Talking about networks. So yeah, basically networks are more expensive here because on the top networks, you need to first collect data about your users by running just simple CPI campaigns. And then you can open new optimizations like in-app ROAS, for example, or ad ROAS, depends on how is your ad is monetized. We also work with overall networks, which are about incentivized traffic. But here it is important to remember that the user behavior is very different from the regular ad network or paid social network, and the retention decay is much faster. So it is important to to find the correct event that will pay off in time. That's the main issue.
Yeah, and for the paid social, once again, you need to be deeply aware of how your app can monetize, how it can gain profits, and then you kind of create the map of tests that you want to run on different social network. Because in my opinion, probably all of them are worth testing for your product if your product is good enough. It's all about the CPI and LTV ratio, and on the result of your first test, you always see the gap between CPI and LTV, as well, supposed LTV, and then you can ask yourself whether I can overcome it or not. For me, as a media buyer, the gap between LTV and CPI in 20 or 30% is it's manageable. I can do the traffic magic to to attract, more valuable users at a lower cost. But when we're talking about like bigger gap, it's probably better not to not to go there. As for the optimization in events, once again, yes, you see the amount of in-app monetization in your app, in-app monetization in your app, and you kind of choose what strategies and what countries you would like to target on. For example, for hardcore games which rely on heavy purchases, you would probably not like to target installs on India, and on the opposites, you would probably you will stay away from value optimization for hyper casual games, obviously because your game doesn't have enough purchase monetization opportunities. But still, that is exactly why I love working with casual games, because there's always a mix, and you can and depending on how you buy and how your traffic works, this ratio of in-app and in-app may change. So, for example, your app is supposed to monetize 70-30 in favor of in-app purchases, but then you kind of do the traffic magic, and it's the opposite, and it's still very profitable. You still can get a 20-30% margin. So yeah, that's the case.
We have a question in the chat. What do you think is good budget for testing Apple search ads for promoting an app or a game?
I mean, it's like the total budget, right? I think like we just in Union Apps we just do like $500 test for new sources. I think it's not $500, $5,000. $5,000 for the test, and I think ASA it will be good for it's a good budget for the test. Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of creatives, you said that the more quality creative that you do, the more if they convert better or something, you can leverage and win a market or win competition in some way. But I see a lot of differences in how creatives are made for games and apps, not just in terms of how they made, like in what tools they made, but how they look. And I see all the ads for the games have no resemblance of real gameplay at all. So it's just like some running guys doing something. What do you think about it? Is it is it good practice, or what should I do if I'm just thinking about promoting my game?
So for hyper casual games, this misleading ads may work because you need to catch the user's attention and monetize them as soon as possible. They may not actually understand during the short session that the ad was actually misleading. So it may work here. Speaking about the misleading ads, of course, I wouldn't recommend to use misleading ads for hard and mid-core genre where the user session is longer and you need to, to add to show the user the end product and let them decide if they like it or not. But for hyper casual, and sometimes for casual games, it may work.
Yeah, and you always have your approach. You have your creative approach when you figure out certain mechanics that is somehow related to your game, but it's still misleading. We call this meta misleading creatives, and it always attracts specific users of specific value at a specific CPI, and then you kind of put this into different optimizations and see how it goes. Once again, yeah, for casual games, once again, it's very flexible. You can use more misleading creatives for attracting ad watchers, and there we prioritize lower CPI rather than the retention rate and the conversion rate. And yes, we use more mechanics that are more related to the game in terms of driving the value users. That's kind of mix and match game of creatives. But still, you need a mechanic. You need a certain mechanic that will be the core of your creative, and then you kind of build everything around it, the trees, the skies. But still, the action is what attracting people, and you need to figure out what your action is.
Meta misleading is a word of the day for me. Fine. Yeah, and for the apps, I saw Artyom speaking on one of the previous webinars and speaking about like different stages of misleading ads, like you showing just features or like some more glorified way of showing features, or maybe some features that don't exist at all in your app. Like, is it still a thing? Does Apple somehow prevent it, or nobody cares?
Yeah, it's still working. I mean, this like circles, of creatives. Yeah, and we just because of Scott, we just actually don't clearly understand what LTV for users they have, what LTV for users from different creatives we have. Yeah, but the first thing that you can imagine about your apps with subscription model, okay, I just acquire a lot of people from like usual creatives, and because I have like a very clearly revenue stream from our recurring subscriptions, it just will be easy to estimate my predictions and my future revenue here. But we just do a lot of tests with different type of creatives, from mislead to features, and we see that if you use misleads, they will like bad users in revenue, and you will get like much less revenues than you can get from features creatives. Because you can see like retention of your subscriptions, and you also just should see in the retention of your core feature. It's very important to estimate and do analysis with your creatives and with your user acquisition. But this like circle method is still working. Firstly, you should start with feature creatives and show your core features and how it's work and help people. Usually you just add some hooks elements like CTA or hand or something like that, and you just do it like with UGC creatives, like with bloggers or some reviews. It's also working good, and it will be get like higher revenue and high LTV per user. But if you do like your misleading creatives, you will get a lower LTV from user, and you just drop down your product metrics. It's very important to be in close with your product team, because if you do something special and you just start do like misleading creatives, you will get drop down your all tests or A/B tests. In this case, you just should be close with your team, and will be like have a plan for product and for user acquisition, because like now we're just testing something very very important for our core feature, and in this case we don't use like meta mislead creatives, or we just have a limited spend for these creatives, because they are also working good for us and for our revenue. But if we do like very simple test, very small, or we just tested not core feature like add feature or something like that, like second feature, you just do a lot of acquisition with misleading creatives. It's work like that.
Okay, so we have one last topic, quick topic about playable ads, and then we'll come to conclusion, I think, for today. So yeah, playable ads. It was always a curious thing to me, like how does it work, and are they better than just usual video or something? Can you tell a bit more about it? I just curious because I really interested.
So in my opinion, Playable Ad is a great opportunity to engage the user because you give them the opportunity to interact with the gameplay, and like the user who installed the app after Playable Ads is like already in the game. They definitely like it. They definitely decide to stay there, and even the retention rate may be higher. They may actually cost more, like in terms of CPI, but still they are really effective. So for example, in Uploading, we always use playables as end cards, even with misleading videos, because it boosts the performance of the creative.
Yeah, and they are generally not performing on paid social. From my experience, I'm not speaking on behalf of the whole market. In my experience,
that's true.
Yeah, I've never seen.
It's a tool more for in-app networks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's pretty expensive.
In terms of making.
It is pretty expensive.
Yeah.
In production, it costs so much.
Yeah.
So much. Yeah.
So it kind of slows your tests. Like you spend more money and more time to implement these playable ads, and you make less tests than if you just pump in usual creatives, right?
No, it's a parallel process. So you just test different approaches, and then you kind of find one and make it playable. Yeah, make it like so you can play it, and then you put it in ad networks because there is no use in putting it into paid social. Yeah.
Oh, great. So I should look at my most best performing creative and try to make it playable. So it's one of the strategies here.
Or add playable as
or you could watch an ad spy service of your competitor.
And
just do the same but playable.
But playable.
Yeah, but playable.
Yeah, sounds like a strategy. So we came to conclusion here. We talked a lot about monetization, about user acquisition and current state of the market. And just to, to conclude it, I may have like a weird question for you, but do you like the state of the market? Do you think it's like a perfect state of mobile market, or you miss the time before IDFA? So I'm really interested into your perspective, like just a person working daily in mobile market. What do you think?
I do miss. Yeah.
Me too.
It was a competitive market where everybody could, just go in and compete with other apps or within one app. It was all about skill. Now there's literally 0 point in having more than one UA manager on SCAD. So on probably any source, maybe 2 for all the sources. It's kind of getting, just simpler. It's a simplified process now, and it used to be more of an art. Android is still the same. So Android is still the idea, the hypothesis, and the way you check them, how much money you can spend. And SCAD now is much simplified. In terms of nerves, in terms of like all the life quality, yes, sure, it's simple for media buyer, it's way simpler. But in terms of interest, in terms of working process, boring.
SCAD is really a challenge for data scientists, for analytics. It's not about media buying. It's about how to analyze and how to create correct KPI nowadays for your paid traffic without pure attribution and clear attribution.
How to distribute the users to different sources of traffic, not to use only one at once. So it's not, and I'm afraid that Android is going to implement the same thing, and then the user acquisition profession, as we know now, may not be a thing in the future.
No, it changed drastically.
Yeah,
not today.
Not today.
But not today.
Gladly not today. We still can. We're still fighting.
Still fine.
And the last about our topic, do you like more working on apps or on the games?
Games?
Games.
Apps.
Apps, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So 50-50.
Yeah.
Okay.
Balance.
That's why there are four of us, It was it was a setup thing, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So thank you for coming today. I think it was really insightful, at least for me. I had a great time. So one last thing I want to say that if you have a game, you now can implement Adapty in your game, because we recently published a new Unity SDK, completely made from ground up. So we're really proud of it. So you should definitely check it if you have Unity game. If you have an app, you of course can install Adapty. Thank you for watching us today, and thank you our experts for participating. It was a great time.
For writing.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.